So today we have the story of the Venice crash and a survivor's inspiring story of recovery. Our guest is Jay Ustruck, who was one of the victims in that crash in Venice. And really, I want to touch on four things in our conversation with Jay. The first is sort of his perspective on how this crash occurred. Then we want to talk about what it was like to go through his really consequential injuries. They were devastating, the recovery period. I want to have him touch on a kind of a conversation he had with a claims adjuster that might give some insights into the claims process. We're going to talk about his support he received and how critical that was from the cycling community and kind of where he is today in his recovery. So Jay, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Jim.
Jay and I had the opportunity to meet after the crash. Actually saw him in the hospital, and we talked on several occasions during your hospitalization down there.
Right.
So, Jay, there's been a lot of people know about the Venice crash. This happened last fall. It involved four riders, sadly, one of which died, Jack Harrison. And I just wanted you maybe talk to our viewers about how this happened, because this happened at a time when you were making a move from the right side of the road across two lanes to make a left turn at an intersection.
That's right.
So walk us through what happened that day.
Sure. There's just four of us in a ride. It was not an official group ride, even though we're all members of Coastal Cruisers Bike Club. It was an unofficial ride, just four of us. It was going to be a 40-mile ride. We're only about 4 miles into it at the time. We're headed east on Center Road, which is a 4-lane road in Venice with a boulevard in the middle. And we're approaching Jackson Road, where our route had us making a left turn. And it's a lighted intersection. And there's also a separate left turn lane there too. So I'm first, Sarah was behind me, then Joel, and then Jack was fourth. And we're in the bike lane, and we're going about 19 miles an hour. We slow down a little bit because we know we have this turn coming up. We're all wearing mirrors and flashing taillights. I look back and I see only one car back in the outside lane, maybe about 8 car lengths behind Jack. And the inside lane is clear. And so I yell back, "Are we taking a lane?" And I get a confirmation, taking a lane. I look at my mirror, I see Jack's wheels are already just outside the bike lane into the outside lane. I put my arm out. We all four put our arms out, left arms out, signaling that we're taking the lane. We're in the outside lane, still signaling, still pedaling, because we still have a ways to go to get to the left turn lane. And I'll look back into the inside lane. It's clear, and arms still signaling left, and we pedal our way into the inside lane. And we still needed about 2 or 3 seconds to make it to the left turn lane when I hear a yell behind me. I look in my mirror, and there's a small black car right on Jack's wheel. And frankly, that's where my memory stops. My next memory after that was a first responder standing over me while I was on the pavement as he's repeating, "Sir, can you tell me your name? Sir, can you tell me your name?"
So you, little feedback. So this is a route that you were familiar with. You made this route, had ridden this route regularly. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Looking back on the situation, is there anything that you would do differently? Or would you make the same call again today?
That's a question I've gone over many times in my mind. And it pretty much came down to, we did what was the prudent. We did it prudently. We did our lane change prudently, and the thing that helps me, justify it in my mind is four very experienced cyclists all made the same decision simultaneously, that this was a prudent lane change to make and a prudent time to do it.
Yeah, commented that I understand one person making an error potentially. I think that's possible, but hard to believe that four people make the same mistake at the same time.
Right. Yeah. So I'd say riding now, I'm much more cautious. Even though we have the right of way and it might be the prudent thing to do, I'm still a bit more cautious and might take a different approach. But yeah, at that time, the other option is to slow down, and actually probably we would have to have come to a complete stop in the bike lane to wait for the car that was in the outside lane to pass us, and then cross over slowly because we're coming from a stop to get over to the left turn lane. That would have been an alternative. Anyway, what we chose to do was, there was nothing wrong with how we chose to do it.
I think that I've talked about before, I think that we make decisions on the road all the time, and those decisions are based on vehicles doing what you believe that the law requires and that safety requires and that reasonably prudent drivers do. When someone pulls into the same lane, they're not going to just continue through you, correct?
Yeah, I think it's real important for cyclists to be predictable for motorists. Be predictable. That's the big thing there. And we sort of expect the same thing from motorists then, to be predictable. If it didn't happen this time,
yeah,
nothing happens 100%.
All right, so let's talk about what happened to you in this crash. I mean, you had pretty serious injuries.
I did. I didn't find out till just recently. I was given after they ran their assessments, I was given a 24% probability of leaving ICU alive. Anyway, they didn't know I was a cyclist though. So what's that?
Big factor.
Yeah, I guess so. I had, from the top down, I had a fractured skull with bleeding on the brain, and a broken C2 vertebrae, had a number of 5 other vertebrae that were compression fractures, broken ribs, lacerated spleen, contusions on my lung, and a collapsed lung, actually. Broke my humerus right below the shoulder on the right side. Multiple fractures to my hip, all on the right side. Shoulder and hip ended up requiring a plate and screws in surgery. And then my lower right leg got compartment syndrome, which is from basically it swelled up where it would have strangled off the blood flow to my foot if a fasciotomy was not done. So that was the first operation that was done to me.
I know that you had talked to me about the incredible pain that you went through and that you wouldn't wish that on anyone. You
right.
Just briefly touch on that.
Yeah, I was in and out of consciousness for the first couple days, and when I was conscious, the pain was incredible. I was I was so glad when I drifted back off into unconsciousness. I can't remember right now the intensity of the pain, but I remember saying to my wife that I would not wish this pain on the most vile person on earth. It was terrible.
So how long did you?
I ended up being about 4 days in ICU, then a progressive ICU for a couple of days, and then 3 more weeks in the hospital's IRF, inpatient rehab facility.
Okay. And kind of walk us through how long it kind of took you to get back so that you were weight bearing, and then talk about your first bike ride after the experience that you'd gone through.
Yeah, I was restricted for the first 3 months, so up until this happened on October 30th last year. So November, December, end of January, I was restricted, no weight bearing on my whole right side, right leg or right arm. And so that was at 90 days that I was released from that. And by day 120, I think it was, I was riding a bike again. And it felt so great.
You are the person I talk to people about occasionally about this. The cyclists have two questions: Doc, how's my bike, and when can I ride again?
Yeah.
You actually asked the doctor when I was down there one time that question, and I thought, this is really amazing to see you lying in the bed with all of the issues going on and that desire and expectation to get back out there.
Yeah. I'd had, so even though I was riding in 120 days, there was still a lot of rehab to go.
Right.
And that continued up till about May, through April. And, it wasn't easy. As anybody that's gone through rehab knows, but the thing that I kept reminding myself is, this is not where I want to stay.
Right. Yeah, I'm not where I'm going to stay. I wrote that down as kind of one of the key statements that I heard you make during this recovery period. When you were in the hospital, at some point you had a contact with an insurance adjuster. And just kind of tell us about the question and the kind of the demeanor of how that was presented to you.
Yeah, I think that was actually after I might have had first contact with him in the hospital, but it was mostly after I got back home. And, I'm still going through a lot of, at this point, just a month after the accident, I'm still going through issues of, I guess, survivor's guilt, it's referred to. And as you brought up before, what could we have done differently? What could I have done differently? I spoke to a psychologist while I was in the hospital, and she helped me understand that this was not my fault. And then you deal with the insurance adjuster, my own company that I pay premiums to. And he's hemming and hawing multiple times. Well, before we pay a claim, we need to make sure, what percentage of blame lies on you. And that's just that messes with your head on any day of the week. But when you're going through emotionally as well as a physical recovery, it's just it's not what you want to hear.
So Jay, when you had this conversation with the claims adjuster, it struck me as sort of the kind of revealing the business of claims adjusting versus the person that they're adjusting the claim for.
Right. That was, I've not met this guy in person, but he's not my favorite person for sure. Here I am, about a month after the accident, and he's, I do a recorded
statement,
a recorded statement for him, and he's hemming and hawing over multiple days and phone calls about, well, we need to determine what level of blame lies with you. And, at any time to hear something like that after an accident is kind of jolting and not pleasant to hear. But when you're going through not only the physical healing, but also the emotional healing with those doubts of what could I have done differently and the survivor's guilt and that kind of thing. And then to have, have this guy saying we need to decide what part of the blame is yours, that was kind of unnerving and not a pleasant experience.
So talk a little bit about your recovery, because your recovery has been amazing, and I think you have a journey and an inspiring take on what you went through. I think that will help people. I know at one point you can talk a minute about you were actually tracking your recovery on Strava.
Yeah.
And kind of a funny thing about, tracking your wheelchair adventures and when you were walking with a cane on Strava too, and kind of the reaction to that.
Yeah, so I was following friends on Strava, and I'd give them kudos or comments or whatever, and one of them commented back was, Jay, let us know how you're doing, even if you're not riding a bike, just let us know how you're doing. So when I finally got, I didn't want, you can't put on Strava that you did some leg lifts or something like that. So when I finally got mobile again, it was, yeah, it was, I put on Strava, I'm doing, I went quarter mile in my wheelchair, or, when I finally got out of the wheelchair, I went, so far in my walker, and then finally on a bike. But it was a very much Strava. My relationships on Strava was very symbiotic. I would get inspired by the achievements my friends were doing on Strava, and in turn, anything I did, they were getting inspired as well. So great that it worked out that way.
Yeah, very interesting. And talk to us a little bit about what it meant to you to have the friendship and support and prayers and encouragement of those who are staying in touch with you and coming to see you.
Oh, it was colossal, Jim. It was colossal. You had asked me before too about, did the accident change my life in any way? And the accident did not, but the support during the recovery period had a profound effect on me. Family, friends, neighbors, and cyclists. The cycling community just overwhelmed me with support. Not only with friends that I cycled with, but including some people that I saw with a helmet and sunglasses on, and might barely not even recognize them on a sidewalk. And then there's other cyclists that I'd never ridden with before that are coming out with and showing all kinds of support. Hospital visits, text messages, and get well cards. Yeah, meals after after I was discharged and back home. Meals were coming by, and it was just amazing. The cycling community is, and I'm sure this is everywhere, is just it's something else. It's the good that are in people is just it's to the nth degree with cyclists, good people.
Yeah, and in your situation, how important to you and to your wife were all of the support you got and the encouragement and the people showing up? Because I think, Jay, so many of us, we get in situations a lot of times where you'd like to step out and say something. You're not sure you know the person well enough. What will I say? Will I say the wrong thing? Maybe you have a comment about that.
The support meant everything to me. Hearing that. I'm just trying to get back to where I was, and just hearing that it inspired people. What, we all get inspired by different people in different ways. I get inspired by people, but I never thought I inspired anybody. And just hearing that I did, it meant a lot. Meant a whole lot. It gave me probably increased motivation to work harder at getting stronger again. So
yeah,
still not 100% back. It's been 11 months. And they said it would take 11 months. I've made great strides.
I know that found out about your situation and did a special presentation for you back in June or July.
They sure did. It was a Trek Madone I was riding that got smashed. I reached out to Trek, and yeah, and they really stepped up to the plate. Trek and Bicycles International, our local Trek dealer, both stepped up to the plate hugely for not just for me, but for Joel and Sarah as well. And that's and I think the whole cycling community kind of saw that and appreciated that too. That
I think
it's more than just cyclists. It's the people that are building them and selling them too.
Yeah, I think there was a real nice. I saw it on Facebook. Darlene and Wes did a real nice presentation down there. You had a lot of people in the store.
Yeah.
They did a really beautiful job with it.
Yes. Yeah. That was incredible.
So talk to me, just finish up for a minute here about how your friendships have been deepened through this experience. We hear about the negatives of people being injured. I want to end on the positive of inspiration and the value of friendships, and
where
you take that.
Yeah, I don't have any animosity toward the motorist. It's just no good to dwell on that. Obviously, very saddened by Jack's loss and the injuries that Sarah and Joel and I are still coming back from. And it's just kind of something how something bad like that accident has increased bonds and friendships with especially with cyclists that like I said, barely knew on a first name basis, and now we're over to each other's homes for dinner and stuff like that. It's very great. It's something. It's very great, and I'm always looking forward to these friendships lasting and in some way being able to I don't know, repay. I feel indebted to so many people, and
I'm sure that I know that. Jay, it's been a real pleasure having you come share your experience with us. It's truly an inspiring story. If this program is something that has brought value to you, you've enjoyed it, I would encourage you to like it, like our program, and share it with a friend. Show your appreciation for what we're doing. I know that you're back riding. I know you rode today.
yes,
And, you're not totally recovered, but you're very fortunate. When I first met you, I wasn't sure whether that was going to be possible or not. And you're just another wonderful success story.
I'm so grateful for everything. I mean, the biking community is so grateful, but also all the medical professionals, starting with the first responders, everybody involved at the hospital, and PT care and everything. I feel very blessed, very fortunate to be as whole as I am right now.
Well, Jay, we wish you the very best. I look forward to seeing you down there at the club. And thank you for joining us today and sharing your story. Thank you, everyone. That's it from Jim Dodson, the Florida Bike Guy, and Jay Ustruck. And I look forward to seeing you again. Take care.
Thanks, Jim. Always good chatting with you.